Welcome!
Oh, man.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Come on in.
Welcome back. We missed you.
Oh, did we ever miss you?
I mean, we do this anyhow. But it just feels better if there's people on the other side of the Zoom connection. So that was the jerry cans from Iqaluit, and if you have been following the news, you might know why we were picking the jerry cans out of our long Canadian diverse playlist this morning, because Iqaluit is going through problems that many communities across Canada are going through for a different reason in this case, but no water. No water at all. There's petroleum all over in their water, so if you're... I don't think we've mapped people. Nobody's in Iqaluit in this class right now.
I don't think so.
But if you have family there or you've been there, you know what you could do? You could write Lloyd, if you're in Guelph, write Lloyd Longfield a letter saying that you strongly support that the federal government, our federal government, ought to be giving that community in that time, let alone all of the other nations and towns across the country that do not have access to clean drinking water. Because, boy, oh boy.
It's kind of a human right.
It's kind of a human right. Not even kind of. It's like...
It's definitely a human right.
It's a physiological necessity and a human right. How do you make your coffee?
Yeah, you need water. Yeah. So, Iqaluit needs water. All people living in Canada or Turtle Island deserve water. Okay. And if this is news to you, check out the news, because it's now just starting to be reported. It's been going on for a while. They need water. Okay. And you seem to have found all of the hidden words. I think so. Well done. Okay. And we are moving on.
That's definitely just the Chesterfield, though. They didn't have enough buttons to spell it.
Yeah, sorry. Okay.
I didn't get a screen grab, but that's okay.
Okay, and
I'll be quicker
next time. So here's just that checklist that you can apply as you go through some of this stuff. We have had a topic test. Congratulations. It went super smoothly on our end.
Well done, all of you.
It's not easy to be part of a large group moving through a single experience. I think
it's not easy.
I think it went well. We are obviously still working on the marking. We will let you know if we're not going to make the 2-week guideline, but that's what we're aiming for, and it seems to be going well. So we'll keep you posted, though, if there are any, if we need an extension on the deadline. I don't think we will, but we'll keep you posted. Okay.
Was that, for everybody, was that your first, for how many of you, was that your first kind of large test in university career?
Yeah. You want to just give us a stamp or a something just to let us know? Was that like your first, because we're under the impression that like for most students, it's your first one. Jillian's like, yes, yeah, okay. There's some stamps coming in. Yes, good. Okay, amazing.
Yeah, lots in the chat.
Okay.
This is my first large university test.
Yeah, okay, cool. So just to let you know, for 1070...
2 in 1 day.
We have these multiple tests, and we don't change it up like in terms of what our expectations are. We might change up like the number of questions in each category or whatever.
We don't even change the questions.
But like, there will be no surprises on the next one. It's not like what we want to do is like ease you into how we do tests. That's why there are 3 of them. It will be a lot more comfortable next time. You won't be surprised. We're going to use the same platform, all of that stuff. So hopefully, the stress associated with first-time test is gonna be minimized for the next time around.
I think usually the stress associated with first-time test is accentuated when you say first-time test.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. So,
I love today's stuff.
Yeah, I'm excited about today.
Abiotic.
Let's just review some of the homework, though. So we did assign some homework. Don't freak out if you didn't get to it. It's fine. This week's homework is actually the least done of all the homework. I wonder why. There's a lot going on. Okay. But we do really want you to do these things. So if you haven't done this homework, this is like the giant Easter egg for coming up on the next topic test. Do this homework and do it well. And don't just like do it and throw it away and go, yeah, I got the number 1.86. I'm done. That's not the point. So do this homework. But if you've already done it, great. Pull out the indices, the values. Is there a way we can see the answers to tests or quizzes? Absolutely. Check the FAQ on CourseLink. It tells you how to do all of that stuff. Okay. So we wanted you to calculate the indices. And here is your homework question. If you haven't done the homework, there is almost no way that you can do this question, so don't worry about it. But let me just throw it at you in the polling feature. Go ahead and see if you can write it in. Please don't annotate the answer on, or the wrong answer, whichever one, on the screen. Go ahead and use the poll.
Holster your stilo. The poll.
You lost the poll?
Yeah. I see it. It's still there.
You see it there?
And the numbers are changing.
Yep.
So
other people are getting it, but maybe if you're not getting it. There it is. Oh.
You know where it's hiding?
What?
It was hiding under a button named
Poll.
Poll.
Okay.
I didn't understand.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, super. So just a few more seconds. Like I said, you can't start doing the indices right now to figure this out. But use them if you need them when you're studying or when you are going to do your homework. Go ahead and use this question. It's helpful. It's got some little like tricks and tips and interesting things in there for you to discover. And we're going to end it in about 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and end poll. Lots of you didn't do your homework. Totally fine. Thank you for being open and honest with us to reveal that 54% of you said you did not yet do your homework. It's all good. Please do this homework. The correct answer is B. Yay! But again, like if, for example, you decided that like all of the black trees are one species, even though they're slightly different in shape, you may not get exactly the same values. Do not panic.
Yep.
Just as long as you know how to, how to interpret them and generally how those variables move. The best way to learn how they move is to actually play with them, which is why we developed that homework. Okay.
So make up some of these things on your own.
Yeah.
As you're studying for the next topic test, this is the kind of thing where grab some images, make up some forests.
Yeah.
And making sure there's some questions.
That would be really helpful,
Yeah.
right?
And
okay.
keep your towel close by. Don't panic.
Don't panic.
That book is 50 years old, I think.
Is it 50 or 40? Wasn't it 42? They were like, oh, it's 42 years old. No? Okay.
I don't know.
An anniversary of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. If you have not read it, whoo, it's a classic.
Are all the homework things compiled in one place somewhere?
No.
Well, yes, in your lectures.
Yes, at the end of every lecture there, but we haven't taken all the homework and put it into, because we want you to be able to associate it with the specific lecture and the content of that, of that homework.
But if you're going to CourseLink and checking out the YouTube or downloading the PDF, then you've got them all.
They're all there. Okay. This is the fun part.
Woo!
Woo!
What determines species composition in a habitat and overall species distribution? In a word, it's the abiotic conditions. Next lecture.
Done. Wow.
No, wait, that's wrong.
That's right. That is like so anti our philosophy of teaching. Let's just tell them the answer. So
okay, write this down.
Write this
Everybody
down.
write this down. No.
Of course we're not going to do that.
No.
So what we want to do, basically, like from now until like the end of time, is to explore the different patterns that exist at different scales, right? That's the whole theme of this course. Different levels of organization, from organ system to tissues to population, all of those things, right? Different patterns, different variables setting the rules of those patterns, right? And in ecology, we have the opportunity to really explore that. So we can ask questions about biodiversity at different scales and say, what's driving that biodiversity?
Yep.
So why doesn't Costa Rica have the same species as Canada? Why are there different types of trees in southern Ontario versus northern, right? So that's a regional scale. And why don't all 3 campus woodlots have the same species in them?
So scale, so as you see, just kind of zooming in and out as if you're kind of one of the pixels of Google Earth or Google Planet, and you're kind of going from the globe to the region to the local. This is one of the things that we talked about earlier with regards to being excited about how you study biodiversity, because if there's something that turns your crank, if it's pipetting things and doing PCR, that's great. If it's looking up things in books, that's great. Or if it's using satellite-derived large-scale, big-scale information, you're going to need all of those. You may even need to do coring inside of a wetland to look very closely at the pollen grains, which is some of what we'll talk about today. So these different scales, potentially different mechanisms across each scale. So
there's a big one.
This is
huge. Like, you want to talk about chaos. This is it. This is as chaotic as it gets in biology, but it also becomes simplified.
Yeah.
It's so elegant what a biome is and what it is not, and what we don't know it is and what it is. Anyway, it's delightful. Because a biome is just a really big region of like similar things that are kind of similar, but like, how do we define them? We'll tell you in a second. A biome is, right now anyway, one of the largest of the biological levels of organization.
Yep.
So ecosystems, biomes. Biomes are a bunch of ecosystems, okay? So if we're thinking about that nested thing, but like, which ecosystems? How do we determine these things? And that's what we're going to tackle today, actually. So spatially, we're talking about it at a global level. And we can give you examples like the boreal forest is a biome, but there's a lot going on in there. So yeah, it's a big thing that kind of has these fuzzy borders.
So I love it because it's big, and because to me, one of the things that I love that you emphasize the chaotic nature of it, because to me, one of the things that this always emphasized when I saw this in my introductory ecology classes or courses or textbooks was, oh, there must be something going on. This speaks to me going, that's such an enormous spatial scale. Yeah. So to me, it emphasized the lack of chaos.
Oh, yay. Okay.
So, and of course, both can be true.
Okay.
They're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, so what we'd like you to do is, now, we'll pop the biome image on in a second, but go to Menti.
Excuse me.
Okay?
Again.
Do you need some water?
I need some more caffeine.
Okay. Go to Menti, www.menti.com, and please, we want you to kind of think about it. What factors place limits on the geographic boundaries of, oh, not this question. Sorry. I'm going to go back. Geographic boundaries of the biomes. Why is it? There we go. Okay, geographic so what variables can we use to distinguish one biome from another? Go ahead and throw in some variables. Hopefully you're good. Yeah, it's working. A few of you are already in there. Super good. And then what I'll do is I will show you, as you're doing that, I will show you the map again. You're doing great.
Oh, I love it.
This group, this semester, you're like super sharp. You're amazing. Okay. You're so good. Well done.
Somebody's got elevation.
Sorry, could you go back? I didn't get all.
The code. I think they're looking for the code.
Yeah. Oh. Whoops. Wait, what?
Hello.
Okay. I don't think that was meant for us.
Yeah.
So we'll put you on mute. If you have a question that was meant for us, please go ahead and pop it in the chat. I think that was anyway. If I made a mistake, let me know. Okay. Wonderful. You're doing great. So this is what your word cloud is looking like. And lots of you are saying things like climate, temperature, latitude, mountain ranges. What else is going on here? Elevation. Nice. You used elevate. They used elevation instead of altitude.
It made me very excited.
Longitude. Good. Okay. Location, resources, weather, terrain. I love this. This is great. Okay.
Don't leave it yet.
Don't leave it yet? You want to comment? You have things to say.
No, I wanted to make sure I screen grabbed it.
Oh, okay.
I've got it. And so now I did love the fact. So there's a whole bunch of things going on. And I love as it continues to refresh on my screen that central 7-letter word is just bang in the center.
Wonderful. Well done. So the answer is yes.
Yep.
And let's simplify it further because most of what you've said can be actually broken down into sort of fewer categories than what you've got there.
One of the things that, just as since we already were talking about you as an interesting group, an interesting cohort of people compared to others, this is the majority of aquatic, marine, or water-based explanations I've seen pop up here before.
That's true.
Yep.
That's
which
true.
is which is a really neat way to think about things.
And okay, and we'll talk about that in a second. Okay, so the factors. Google yours. Where are you? So what you can do is very quickly open up a Google thing. Type in your city, your town, your location, wherever you are, and then the word biome. Tell us which biome you are in.
Siri, Google thing. Now!
The Google. Wait, should we try? Hey Siri, what biome am I in? I don't even know this.
Okay, I found this on the web for what biome am I in. Check it out.
Amazing. Yay! Okay. Siri can tell you.
Hey Siri, what am I thinking?
Okay. So what biome are you in? What's going on in the chat box?
Hold on.
Or write it on the screen if you want.
Grassland.
Grassland.
Deciduous forest.
Amazing.
Humid continental. The library.
That's awesome. You're in the library.
Oh, your Google needs some correction. Somebody, when they started filling in biome, it autofilled to biomedical sciences. I mean.
Oh, right.
No, not, but.
What's the difference between cold desert and tundra? Hold that. Like, I want to answer it out of respect for your question, and I want you to discover it yourself in about 5 minutes.
Tim Hortons.
You're in Tim Hortons. Amazing. Okay. So, thank you. There's a star. Wonderful. You are in the bright green biome. Cool. Okay.
That is awesome.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So we are somewhere in a biome, right? And you can figure out which one you're in. Here, the bright green one. Here, boreal forest. If you're on the coast, if you're in the mountains, you are in the high mountain biome, right? I love these like long kind of beautiful paint marks across the planet.
Yeah, and think about, of course, remember as you're going around and around, some of you talked about longitude, some of you talked about latitude in those last Menti quizzes, but look at that, the boreal just kind of around, navigating, and then of course the high mountains like a backbone stretching up our continent. I love it. I love it.
So good. Okay, really cool. So it turns out somebody's in a tropical rainforest. Oh, don't tell Smith. Yeah, he's
jealous.
jealous.
That we were too.
Yeah. Okay, so it turns out that we can take all of these variables that you pretty darn correctly put in there and collapse them into 2 variables. So this is where the chaotic becomes the simplistic and the elegant, because a biome is defined purely, like it's hard to say that in biology, by 2 variables, okay? And those two variables are not tropical rainforest. Those two variables are temperature and precipitation. So a biome is characterized by how much water it gets and what the temperature is. That's it. Okay, so what we want you to do is let's all take our green check mark stamp. Don't stamp yet, but just get it ready. Green check mark. And what I'd love for you to do is to, on 3, when I say 3, stamp where you think the tropical biome will be on this graph. Ready? 1, 2, 3, check. Okay, super good. Okay.
Okay, holster.
Holster. Green, good. Yeah, as long as it's mostly green, it's fine. It doesn't matter. The hearts, yes, we love the tropics. Okay, next. Let's take our yellow stars, and on 3, let's do the boreal/tundra biome. Okay, so more of the tundra side of things. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Yellow star it up.
Whoa!
Whoa! Super good. Amazing. Okay. The red heart for Savannah on 3.
Oh,
1,
Savannah, won't you come
2,
with me?
3. Yeah, super good.
You got this.
You got this. Okay. Let's do the blue question mark for desert on 3. 1, 2, 3. Aha! Yay, one of you is using a pen going along this. Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Super good. Really good. Okay, and what do we have left on the stamps? The X, the red X for temperate on 3. 1, 2, 3. Amazing. This is great. Don't forget Antarctica is a desert. Oh my goodness, don't forget that Antarctica is a desert. Okay. So let's just let it settle. We'll remove your name, so that your names go away, so that we can screenshot this and still maintain some of your anonymity. There we go. Okay. And screenshot it. You got it? Okay. Amazing. Well done. So this is good. There are some slight tweaks and modifications that we might make, but I hope what is the exact spot for desert? There is no exact spot, right? So this is it. There's like a region, okay? And it totally depends. We have hot and cold deserts. Why precipitation level? I don't know if I understand what this question is. Why precipitation level is and P. Okay. Great. So let's clear this up a little bit, and we'll show you one that was done by a single person. I love the messy version because that's kind of the answer. It's messy, but there are these clusters, these regions, right, relative, that define the different biomes. Okay, and I hope that you can see that there is some separation where, okay, yeah, way over here we have this, but then as we get closer to this, there's this fuzzy border. Okay, that's the point. So let's clear this and move here. So if we fill this out with, data that are collected and looking at different sort of biodiversity patterns and things like this, this is an answer. Okay, it's not the only answer, but this is an answer that makes it a little less chaotic when instead of stamping, we're going to fill in these regions. And you can see, for example, you were asking about a desert. Where exactly is a desert? Well, we have subtropical deserts, we have cold deserts, and then we have tundra that are also deserts, right? Because they are characterized by precipitation largely, and they vary with temperature. Okay, so cold deserts, hot deserts, they are there, and they are different biomes, and it works because those are the two variables that are different that you can use to explain them. Is a biome characterized over a period of time, as in the whole year, or how do we determine this? Can a biome change throughout the year? Biomes are stable for like millennia. Okay?
But the conditions locally,
That's right.
there can still be
So
ups and downs.
Yeah, when
Yep.
you zoom in, things get more chaotic. Like it's complicated and beautiful.
Yeah, so somebody's observed in the chat that even a temperate desert will be very cold at night, and this is true.
Oh, somebody's saying we should invent something for like here. I agree.
High precipitation.
I think that's
and
like
low annual. So
that could be the ocean.
I think we're into Star Wars territory there. The Mandalorian will visit a planet like that if they haven't already.
Wonderful. I love it. Okay. So here is where on this one we might have clustered our stamps for before, and it's just reinforcing the white labels that are there. So,
but it also talks about, there's some questions in the chat about savanna. Before we put up the so we talked about the spread across temperature, all having low precipitation for desert.
Yeah.
But then within A to C, that kind of light green, pea green chunk on the right-hand side, if you've got high temperatures, generally, and moderate or low levels of precipitation, then you transition from predictably seeing a tropical seasonal forest to seeing a savanna.
Yeah. Super. So here are the biomes again in larger so that you can appreciate them. There's so much information going on in this, and just all of the different hypotheses and predictions that you can make about what life is like in each of these regions is just so, I don't know, I get super inspired and super excited to think about, you know, what the conditions are in this region compared to this region here or over here. And what life has to have adapted to in order to be able to be successful. So there's this nice little kind of, again, it's satisfying and frustrating by its exceptions. But here's a kind of ecological kind of trend, a rule. And your brain is going to go, what about blah? And what about this? And the whatabouts in this particular case are the things that make biology fascinating, right? So let me just tell you the rule, okay? The rule has to do with the relationship between latitude and population size and biodiversity. And we're defining biodiversity here simply by the number of different species in an area, okay? The rule goes that as latitude increases, so either towards the North Pole or towards the south, because the equator is 0, right? And the poles are 90 degrees north, 90 degrees south. So as latitude increases, as you go from the equator to the poles, biodiversity, the number of species, decreases, but the size of the populations of those that are there increases. It's kind of neat, right? Put it on a graph, it's all nice and satisfying, it's a single line, right? And I hope you're thinking, what about? And there are some very cool patterns that you know, support this in nature for reals. And what we want you to do is think about why that pattern might be. What might explain it, okay? Don't feel like you need to be able to answer it all. We have to get into a little bit of physiology, but think about like a nice unifying sentence that might help to explain why this pattern might be. That if you go towards the poles, you decrease the number of species. Why? Conversely, though, the number of individuals of that species increases. The population size increases.
Can I have for one trick that I have for thinking about these things as you're trying to marshal your thoughts? And one of them is to, as you're thinking about them, you're going to run in, potentially your mind will give you exceptions.
Yeah.
Think about those exceptions, because if you think about why they don't fit this pattern, and much of life fits this pattern, that might get you thinking about, well, why is there that pattern for the rest of life?
Totally. Carrying capacity, and it good. You've got hypotheses. These are testable. We love it. Amazing. Okay. And there's the list of your questions. Again, these are things to think about, to discuss, to kind of Google and play around with. Are these real trends? Do they apply to all types of organisms? Okay, and we have to get into physiology a little bit, endotherms, ectotherms, those types of things. And why might they not apply, right? Always thinking about the opposite in order to make biological discovery. Okay, so that's kind of global scale. Those are biomes, right? Biomes are really cool. 2 variables used to characterize them and to kind of identify the limitations and the fuzzy borders of them. Now we can zoom down into the regional scale and we can say, why are there different types of trees in southern versus northern Ontario, right? Why is there this difference? They're in the same biome, right? But we do appreciate that there are some differences. So what helps to explain that difference, even though they're in the same biome? And now we get back to our tree.
Oh, this maple, this great big honkin' maple. So what are the possible reasons that this species, that this individual of this species, this is Acer saccharum or the sugar maple, why is it where it is? Why is it where it, why is it not where it isn't? And why is it not where it could be, but isn't?
Nice.
These are some big questions.
These are big questions. And that's what ecology is.
Yeah, it's big questions on kind of small temporal scales that, yeah. So how are we going to test these hypotheses? So is it going to be only temperature and precipitation when you filled out your grant to apply to do the science that you now want to do because of your exposure to 10.7? You're like, this is it. For me, all I need is a thermometer and a rain gauge, and I am ready to do ecology. What else might you want?
That's kind of what you use.
Oh yeah,
those are your 2 tools.
Like don't not buy a thermometer and a rain gauge. But one of the major ecological things that that we want to think about, or that we as ecologists have learned to think about, that the animals and plants have told us to think about, and then after hundreds of years of observation, we go, oh yeah, maybe we should do that. Is to think about dispersal ability. Dispersal being a really fundamental descriptor of a species in terms of its capacity to move. And if you want to think about movement ecology, you can define movement in a bunch of different ways. If you're in physics right now, you've thought you know about displacement versus the other one, but which just went out of, hold on. So dispersal being essentially the movement from where you were born to where you reproduce. There's other ways of defining it, but those can be assisted by the wind, by the water, by animals, or by none of them. And so there's all sorts of adaptations that different species have evolved through time to be more successful, to move from in space and through time. So those involve hooks on different, if you've got burdock outside of your door right now, you can zoom in and look at those little hooks that we kind of copied our Velcro idea onto. If you've got, earlier in the year, you were probably blowing, if you were with us and our children, you were dispersing, you were wind assisting dandelions all over the place. And then coconuts, thinking about the movement of the passive movement of both animals and plants in large currents around the world. And that, so thinking about how it moves, the capacity, so the adaptations that it has, morphological or physiological, and then also the biology of the organism, because some stages of life may not be when you move. If you go outside right now, blindfold yourself and run into the dairy bush, you're going to run into adult maple trees. They don't move that much, the adults, but the eggs, the seeds, the pollen, that's what moves. So different, you have to know about the biology of things. And one of the reasons we know so much about this is because of this person, Dr. Margaret Davis, who is still alive. She was, what a career. So one of the reasons we're talking about her is because she used pollen, and these are 2 kind of scanning electron microscopes. So super gorgeous images of pollen of Tsuga canadensis, so a hemlock, and species of Acer saccharum, or species of Acer, species of maple at the bottom. And she looked at how tree species have moved. She essentially, in a, geeking out here, in a Lord of the Rings, she studies ants. She studies the movement of trees across landscape, across hundreds and hundreds of kilometers, using pollen collected from sediments. And so with these two species as exemplars of the trees of eastern North America, she's run into different ecological problems, like, I will come to that in a second.
Men.
Yeah. So one of the
big ecological problem.
So as she dispersed, so before we get to her thoughts about the trees, her own dispersal was impeded by men. She was attached to one as a partner. He got a job at the University of Minnesota. Great, congratulations. The University of Minnesota 50 years ago rather, in 1972, decided not to give her a job, that she would probably just stick around and they could benefit. They could essentially parasitize her expertise for a fraction of the cost by kind of stringing her along in short-term contracts. She, and this was not uncommon for women in this
until yesterday. It's still going on.
Until today.
Today.
So one of the things for her time that was not common was the vigorousness with which she fought back, and the public nature with which she fought back. Yeah. And she won. And she did get a position, and the rest of her career, this on the right hand, so the left-hand side is an example of her public kind of fight about this. Why am I not being hired when I'm doing the same things? Why have you not hired me at the same rate, commensurate with my expertise? I know the answer, just do it.
Yeah.
And on the left hand, on the other side, this is very strange, on that side is one example of some of the awards that she received throughout her career as she persevered. This particular one is for the Ecological Society of America. She's also a fellow of the National Academy of Sciences in the United States. In her country, those are the two biggest honors that you can get. So the social nature
while
of
working on the
dispersal
social problems associated with, and like, not even to mention if she was a person of color as well, like she wouldn't have even been able to have won, right? Yeah. So thinking about all of that, she was working on some amazing ecological problems and came up with some fantastically beautiful data. So let's focus on the science now.
So looking at the spread, so we've got Acer reached its northeastern limits, current contemporary limits of its distribution about 6,000 years ago. So spreading up in a wave of moving up, tracking the glaciers and moving about 6,000 years ago, and contrasting that with hemlock, which reached its current limits only about 2,000 years ago. So when she's modeling these problems and when she's thinking about these problems as an ecologist, she's having to think about temperature and precipitation, contemporary, historical, deep history in terms of the Pleistocene. But she's also thinking about dispersal capacity. How did the seeds move? How did the pollen move? You can see just in the scale of those SEMs that we're looking at kind of an order of magnitude scale in terms of how large they are. One of them is much smaller than the other. So this is a complicated ecological problem that she essentially contributed the majority of her career to figuring out. And one of the things that I love about her writing is that she kept writing about the fact that this is complicated, and the reviewers and the all other researchers that want me to come up with one answer are not understanding the fact that it could be multiple things. It could be the dispersal capacity, here kind of measured maybe by the size of the pollen. It could be climatic interventions that facilitated one species but made it quite challenging for another. It could have been large barriers like those lakes, which at the time as the glaciers were belching out into along the St. Lawrence, this was an enormous, unimaginably large and violent and wide river lake that perhaps the seeds or the animals that disperse those seeds could not make it across. And
you can even see it by looking at the difference in the banding, right? Yeah. Each band is there to represent 1,000 years, right? And it took a while to get across the lakes, but then once they got across the lakes, it's very short,
so
right?
What was going on there?
Yeah, so they were moving at different rates, or they were moving, or they were moving quickly across the lakes, and they were moving then more slowly. So what's going on? Does it have to do with prevailing winds, for example, slowing down that movement, right? So they get shorter and they get wider, and you can see these shorter and wider, something's going on there. There was some other variable, right, that was affecting the dispersal rate.
So some of these were general conclusions that she suggested you could make about forest trees colonizing North America. Then it becomes specific about the biology of the species. And so some of you have asked in the chat about the shape. Does the shape of the pollen matter? And it's like, yes, it does. In terms of how it moves, its size, its shape. These are both elements of the biology of the thing, that of the species, of the taxon, that translate into its capacity to move through space and then allow us to track it through time.
Great.
And so one of the cool things about this is she's essentially a time traveler, right? Is that she's coring into bogs or into the sediments at the bottom of lakes, and then using the fact that the pollen survives and is identifiable. So Acer saccharum pollen that you could collect right now off of your windshield in the spring, if you put it under an SEM, it would look like that. And if you get it out of the bottom of a bog from 3,000 years ago, it looks like that. And so she can track this morphological signature of a moving forest.
So regional scales have a lot to do with dispersal. Whether they can go quickly or slowly, whether they're assisted, whether those types of assistance are available, it all depends on dispersal as well. Moving on to the local scale, though, we can think about our woodlots, right? And we can say, why don't all 3 campus woodlots have the same species in them? And dispersal becomes less of an important factor. It's still there. But there are other factors that we need to layer onto that in order to be able to explain. So back to your Menti, if you don't mind, please. We're going to ask you, instead of the biomes, what might we use to explain the woodlots? Hold on one second. There's something weird going on. I think it copied the answers. Yeah, reset. Okay, let's try that. Oh. And, okay. Let's try again.
You're quick.
What factors place limits on the geographic boundaries of the woodlots? Nice. This guy.
Human activities. Nice.
Nice.
I like a lot of these. Actually, it's not even that I like a lot of them, it's that I like that there are a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of reflecting your...
Yeah.
The range and breadth of your thought is very impressive this morning.
Well done. Okay.
And there are lots of thoughts and agreements in the chat about...
Yeah, super.
Discrimination, institutionalized,
Yeah.
societal, all sorts of things.
Okay, so one of you is having some fun. That's totally fine, but I'm not going to put it up because you're making it the biggest word, and I don't want to confuse other students because that's actually not an answer to the question. So what I'll do is I'll read them to you, what you're saying here, and also in the chat is totally good too. So humans, development, roads, people, pollution, competition, bodies of water, relative sunlight, the weather, buildings, absolutely. That's, all of those, soil quality, for sure, at the local scale, is really good. Well done. It's excellent. So everything that you've got there is really good. Okay.
I love the intersection with a lot of human activity, a lot of anthropogenic influence,
Yeah.
edges of water,
Yeah.
edges of things.
Yeah.
Cool.
Good. And so we are wrapping this up a few minutes early because what we want...
Last time we said that, we didn't.
We didn't.
So be very careful.
Be very careful. Okay. We're wrapping this up a little bit early with your homework. So again, if you're keeping up by doing homework, here's what we'd love for you to do. Make a list of all of the biological levels of organization. And for each level, include at least 3 variables that are relevant to explaining the biodiversity. And remember, one of those will not have 3 variables. Don't worry, it's there to kind of get you to go, wait a second. If you go, wait a second, it probably means you've learned something. So that's kind of what we want you to do. See if you can come up with as many variables as you can for explaining some of the biodiversity, kind of like what we just did. Remembering, of course, that, you know, ecosystems and biomes, those are levels of organization. But now we want you to kind of pull it down into populations, down into individuals. What are some variables that are relevant to explaining biodiversity? You'll get tripped up, and it's totally fine. So do we. But we want you to kind of bring your mind there. Okay?
Look at this.
Look at us.
We'll put our feet up.
Okay.
So we're going to, when we sign off, we'll take a couple of seconds. It might be a couple longer than normal because we're going to change rooms, and I'm going to hang around for
That's right.
The office times.
Yep.
You're going to get to see another room in this house.
Yeah, and I gotta go, unfortunately, for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, send us energy.
Yeah, we're, yeah, I'm in a thing. I'm supposed to actually be in Ottawa, doing this, like...
Remember travel?
Remember travel? Travel was a thing. Anyway, I'm gonna be in this conference process for the next 2 weeks from 11 until 6 p.m., almost every day. So that's why I have to skip out on office hours for the next little while. But you'll be around.
I'll be around.
'Kay.
And then I'm going to spend all of my time thinking about abiotic conditions changing along elevational gradients and trying to encourage the government of Canada to facilitate my capacity to train students in thinking about those things.
Uh-oh. Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Take care.
All right. We'll see those of you that hang around in a second. Now, static waving.